scholars, welcome to Mrs. Dean's mathematics class. During this lesson, we will discuss problem solving and managing a mathematics classroom. I would like to welcome you all here to the first lesson that we will tackle together in this math class. If you have any questions, please make sure you raise your hand and wait to be called on. I will call on all students to participate in this math lesson. We do have a paraprofessional here with us that will be assisting me as we present this lesson to you today. Let's get started, and I am so happy and excited to have you here as again we discuss problem solving and managing a mathematics classroom. It will cover chapter 7 and 8. Let's get started. How many balls do you see? None. Do you see any? I don't see any. Now, how many balls do you see? Anyone want to take a wild guess? Yes, Johnny, I see blue. Those are my favorite colors, actually. Blue, light blue, any array of blue. How many balls do you see? Not the colors, how many? Does anybody want to take a guess? I heard 10. I heard 11. Raise your hand and I'll call on you. Oh, nobody wants to raise their hand. Okay, we'll figure it out. Anyone else want to take a stab at it before I move on? A lot. I heard a lot. Yes, it is a lot of balls that we do see. At the conclusion of this lesson, my math scholars will be able to identify a problem, describe the features of a problem, investigate the problem for understanding, meaning you want to make sense of the problem. You will develop a plan to solve a problem. You will formulate strategies to carry out a plan to solve the problem. You will verify that the answer to the problem makes sense by using problem-solving strategies, and we will discuss those too. And we will also make sure our math scholars are able to provide examples of productive protocols for the mathematics classroom. So once we complete this lesson today, my math scholars, which are you, will be able to identify, describe, investigate, develop, formulate, verify, and provide. Those are all action words. And that is what you guys will be able to do, you guys and girls will be able to do once we conclude this lesson. We're going to jump right into chapter 7 and we're going to talk about problem solving. Strap up, here we go. What is a problem? Does anyone want to raise their hand and tell me what a problem is? Okay, I'll wait, you guys. Don't be shy. Okay, let's see. A problem is any task or activity for which the student has no prescribed or memorized rules or methods, nor is there an awareness by students that there is a correct solution method. So a problem is any task or activity which you, the student, you don't know how to solve it. So it's a problem. If you wanted to count to 13 and you said, I'm going to use my toes, would that be a problem? Yes. How many toes do we have? 10. That is correct. So if you wanted to count to 13, could you use only your toes? No. you wouldn't have enough toes to count. Well, maybe somebody has 13 toes, and that's okay. What are the features of a problem? A problem starts at the math level of the student body. It must be the mathematics students are learning, and it requires justification and explanations of answers and methods. So the problems that we will discuss during this lesson are going to be multiplication problems. Since we've been learning about multiplication, we're going to use the math that we've been learning in the class to discuss what a problem is and what the features of a problem is, meaning what are the ingredients in that problem and what are we going to do to solve that problem. So we're going to start at the math level that we're in, and we're going to use the mathematics that we're learning, which in this lesson and the past couple of weeks has been multiplication. And it's going to require that you justify and explain your answers and the methods that you use to solve multiplication problems. So we now know the problem that we're going to address in this lesson is going to be multiplication problems. And the features of our multiplication problems are going to be whole numbers, meaning numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 60, 10, 11, 12. We learned about whole numbers, right? When we were younger. We're now going to use whole numbers in this lesson, which is going to be our problem, and we're going to solve multiplication. And we need to, again, make sure we can justify and explain our answer and explain the methods that we use to arrive at our answers. So we're going to talk about the 4-step problem-solving process. All right, here we go. The first step in solving a problem is understanding the problem based on the information provided and make sense of the question or problem being presented. So what do we say we are going to do today? What will our problem be? Multiplication problems. That is correct. So the first thing we will need to do is understand our multiplication problems. Our second step will be to think of a plan to solve the problem. So we're going to have to put on our thinking caps and come up with a plan to solve our multiplication problems. The next thing we're going to do is put our plan into action. So the plan that we come up with after we understand our multiplication problem, we will then need to put into action so we can get a solution to the multiplication problems that we're given in this lesson and future lessons to come. Once we put our plan into action, we solve our problem based on the information that we have, and then we're going to need to be able to verify that our answer to the multiplication problem makes sense by using problem-solving strategies. So we're going to learn some problem-solving strategies that will help us solve our multiplication problem. So now we know what is a problem. Our problem will be multiplication problems. The features of our problems will be the math that we're learning, which is multiplication. It will be at the mathematical level that all of us math scholars have learned. We will also be able to justify and explain how we arrive at our answers by using multiplication problem-solving strategies. All right, here is a list of some strategies that we can use when we are working through multiplication problem solving. These are some good strategies that you can hold on to as you're doing your work, and they'll help you think through your problems and they help you assess if you are arriving at the correct answer. So you can find a pattern in your multiplication problems. You can use objects or act it out. You can get some fingernail polish bottles if your mom has a lot and paint your fingers, or if you paint your fingers. You can use water bottles. You can gather a lot of water bottles and use those bottles to solve multiplication problems. You can work backwards. That'll help you make sure that your answer is correct. You can use guesswork, check, and you can revise. So if you're working backwards and you're guessing and it's not adding up as you're doing multiplication, you can go back to the drawing board and revise it, or you can draw a picture. Use another strategy to help make sure that your work is correct, that the solution you came to when you solved your multiplication problems, that it actually is the correct solution. And again, you need to be able to explain it. Another thing you can do is use common sense. If you are wanting to count all the tables in the class and you know that you have 16 students that are sitting in the class with you, so you would make 17. If you're writing out a multiplication problem and you come up with the answer 20, you think about it and say, well, I know only 17 students are in the class, right? So could 20 be the answer? That's right, Edward. 20 wouldn't be the correct answer because you know there's only 17 people in the class, including yourself, right? So you would think about it and make sure it makes sense to you. If the answer doesn't make sense based on the information you have, then you know that's the wrong answer and you want to go back and redo your work or use another method to try to help you solve the problem of multiplication that you're working on. These are some of the problem-solving strategies that we will go over. If you can think of any other ideas, make sure you raise your hand, and when I call on you, you let me know and we can all talk about it, okay? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we're going to move forward, okay? All right, I'm going to pass out a multiplication table to each student. This will be yours. You can use this as a reference. You can use this to help you learn your times tables. If you have this out and I ask a question, when you raise your hand, you can check this to make sure you're right. Or you can read the answer off of this. This multiplication table is to help you to learn your multiplications, and it will act as an aid for you when you're working through your word problems, when you're working through your worksheets, when you are working through the in-class assignments. So make sure you keep this multiplication table as a reference, a page you can go back to and check your answers. When everyone has a copy of the multiplication page, I want you to raise your hand. Once I see all hands raised, you can put your hands down and I'll let you know. And we're going to proceed with the multiplication lesson. Okay, all hands can go down. I want to ask the question. Remember, raise your hand and wait to be called on. What is 5 times 8? All right, Sally, tell me what 5 times 8 is. 40, that is correct. Jim, is she